have Cerebral Pisces. How you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
And we have Brandon Spencer.
Howdy, howdy. How you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Alright, sweet. Thank you. Alright. So, how are you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty
Alright, I'm gonna
well.
just
How about
adjust
you?
my audio a little bit because I can barely hear you. I think it's on my end. Alright, say something now?
Can you hear
Hello,
me?
hello.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. It was on my end. So, a little bit of a disappointing halftime show, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty lame.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm like, man, the one time I willingly sit myself in front of a TV and watch commercials, they have to disappoint me.
Yeah, it was
That,
pretty boring stuff this year.
yeah, they picked the low hanging fruit, the typical as above, so below stuff, and just your basic bitch stuff.
Let's see something real quick.
You know what my thought was after watching that was I started thinking about how this year there, like what you said, Kyle, there's probably a lot of people looking for symbolism. And then there's also the fact that, like, I'm sure a lot of those people that are looking for symbolism are people that are showing their friends what's going on because maybe our friends are starting to see stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Yeah, no, they're toning it down because they know they got a lot of eyes on them now.
yeah. So what do you make of that? Do you think that, like, cuz I've been feeling like they've been more aggressive lately,
I mean,
and
it obviously they're picking up a little bit more speed, because they're kind of worried about uh just how many people have caught on. So that would be my kind of take on everything. Is that they're trying to not lead things on too quickly, but they at the same time they feel like they're pretty much everyone's catching on to the whole game. I mean, everything's been sort of turned mainstream since COVID, and a lot of people even that got the vaccines have really begun to question their own reality. The whole thing with Project Veritas really put a damper into like everything that they were doing. So I think they're once the Grammys had gone really big, I think they might have changed that show around a little bit more and toned it down a lot more because they know a lot of people are looking for what's the next major thing, and like right now, a lot of people are calling out the whole balloon psyop. So,
oh yeah, I went on a different stream with M10 from Clown World Cousins, and we ended up talking about that whole psyop. So yeah, I think pretty much everybody and their mother has been talking about that one.
yeah, well, that's why
Well, if,
everyone. I think. Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say the funny thing about the balloon psyop is when you look at the symbolism of how the balloon, because it's obviously a form of mockery. So you would have to ask yourself, who are they mocking? Because who are the ones that that usually like have balloons? It's clowns and children. So you can, take that as a form of mockery because they do kind of mock us, because they are in their ego and they think that they are the rulers who can tell us what to do. So they like to mock their slaves from time to time, and that's pretty much what I saw that psyop as.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. That, and it's also good for, the ones who are hardcore asleep are probably looking at that and being like, really? You conspiracy theorists are dissecting a balloon that hard?
Pretty much. You know what? I wanted to say to is it M10? I think everyone saw the whole Grammy performance, and it went so viral. And after they played Pfizer on that, it kind of brought too much attention. So once again, I believe that's why they were toning down the Super Bowl. Um, when people start to catch on too much, they don't want to like have it blow up too much.
Well,
And
it's that, and um, we live in a large scale abusive relationship, which I think is another thing I've said before. So like sometimes when you're dealing with an abuser, it could be a parent, it could be a significant other, whatever you feel more comfortable comparing it to. Sometimes when you're dealing with an abusive person, they'll like get really, really aggressive, and then the next minute they'll be completely acting fine, and they're not. You know, they're like, what are you on about? Like, it's not a big deal. We're over it. You know? So
yeah,
Yeah, they'll
I kind of see that, like, toxic kind of, well, it's just kind of gaslighting. It's a form of gaslighting.
yeah,
yeah, how the how abuser will use violence and coercive force, which is always negative, and then they may show you forms of love and compassion as well. Because what this does for the one who is being held abused or to the victim, it kind of creates a form of dualistic thinking, or kind of goes to the polar extremes, because in your mind you're like, well, this person is doing wrong to me, but yet at the same time is also showing me love. It creates a form of cognitive dissonance. It creates a form of health division as far as in your thinking. It creates a schism. And that's why you kind of see a lot of people who have been in a lot of abusive, have relationships. They'll have, like multiple personalities, because they'll try to compartmentalize things that have happened to kind of cope with that. So that's the reason why sometimes they may back off of these forms of help mind control, and then sometimes they may kind of put more pressure and more friction to create that help that frequency, to create that energy. So it's just all a form of manipulation, and this is just sadly one of the techniques that help abusers use, because it will literally create darn near a split personality, that internal schism.
Yes, very, very true. That's about as well as anybody can put that. Because, you know, so people at this point. The other thing that I was thinking about recently, and I was gonna do my own stream about this, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But basically, I've been really thinking about why the AI is a big player of things now, and I have some thoughts on
I think
that.
they've been using like AI to write like television articles for over 10 years now.
Yeah, they have. But I'm saying like why it's so blatantly in our face. Like AI is inescapable, it's everywhere, and they're always talking about it. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like why they're throwing all this robot stuff in our face. And I had a thought about that. I think it's because what do you need to do? Like I think it's just they've already taken so much humanity that they're ready to just take the whole thing. Like with how inhuman people have gotten, how far from from nature and God and who they are as people. Like a lot of people don't even know who they are. So, and everything's so artificial. It's just a good, like, people are broken down enough to kind of want to merge with the AI, maybe at some point in the near future. Just accept the AI and all the just more fakeness that's going on. That's why we're seeing all that stuff kind of shoved in our faces more. I mean, it's been around, but it's just like all the time in the news and just everywhere. Because they're ready to just take the last little bit of humanity out of people, I think, now, and out of life. Because they feel like enough people are broken down, and they're hoping that that because most people are broken down by this stuff, that there won't be enough of a backlash if they do it quick enough but smart enough.
Right. And that's what the masters have always done when it comes to slave think. You know how when it comes to mind control, is you limit the possibilities of creation, and therefore when you limit the possibilities of creation, you limit how what can how what is actually possible in the minds of held the slave. And this is important because when you take away that creativity, when you take away what individuals can think is possible, then you can give them your own worldview in the form of what you are talking about as AI. Because people, lack true hell intelligence, they lack true knowledge, they lack true understanding of morality, sadly, still in 2023, then therefore, because they lack that knowledge, then you can easily just feed them whatever. You can easily use indoctrination. You can easily use techniques of, her repetition of word sorcery to get them to buy into whatever form of ideology or whatever way of thinking. So as you said, people will open up their hands to this, AI because they haven't really been trained or they can't see anything different than what they are being fed from the mainstream media, from, entertainment, from Silicon Valley, and of course, from the government, because the government is the one who is, held back in all of it.
Right.
And how I would always jokingly say that AI just really means absolute ignorance, because that's the real AI, is our absolute ignorance. That's really a cancer, that is really a plague. So until we really start to really become moral beings and start to educate ourselves and start to go within ourselves, sadly, that AI, that absolute ignorance is going to take over.
I mean, they're at a point where they can just fake anything they want on television with AI. They can fake voices and stuff. They don't really need humanity anymore to produce content. And I think that's what they're just prepping people for is that now we're just gonna 100% just we don't need you anymore. Like we can create now, you know, anything with like just typing some things into a keyboard. So you don't need the musicians, everything. It's to make people feel purposeless, and then so they give up on their own form of humanity. They're That's why in Canada they're also encouraging deepfakes is one way of doing things, but I mean they're at a point now like AI can like make an entire movie. They can in real time they can change people. I mean back in 2012 they were working with real time facial editing. They could just take an old capture source and then in real time have another actor being filmed and it would control the target source. So like they could have a picture of or a movie of Putin, and then they could hijack that using technology back then. So this is it's just now at a point where you can just like type things into a keyboard. It's not you don't even need a target source anymore. You can just literally tell the computer to compute it, and it'll create it. And yeah, that's where they're going. I mean, they've got their robot army all set up with that they're producing. They've got they're trying to get everybody to go electric. They're taking away everybody's gas and everything. They're just trying to hurry up as fast as they can because there's a huge storm of people that are, in my opinion, 100% waking up and realizing and questioning things. And so they gotta act quickly.
Oh
How big is
yeah, I've noticed that like what you're talking about because even here in California, even though California is just full of the sheepiest sheep you'll ever see in your life, there's I've run into actually a few people who are awake here, and I've gotten some connections with people that are really out there, and I'm active in my community, and there's more of us than you would ever realize if you just hung out on the internet, and that's all you saw. The internet, the way that AI is working and like how they're censoring things and stuff, it's all very strategic. it's to make it seem like not that there are no people. I think they leave just enough content up to make people see that there are people that are awake, but make it seem like it's such a small number that there's just no way that anything will ever change.
Or they couldn't actually censor. There was just too many people, and then the more they were censoring, is causing more damage. So then, as soon as everyone started talking about things getting censored, it brought attention to it. Um, People are more uniting under the fact that they have Biden as president right now because everyone's suffering right now. Everyone's bills have gone up. No one is really happy. And then you have like, yeah, the woke crowd, but they're really not as big as I think. That's why they have to use television and all this technologies to create the illusion like, no, you're all being manipulated. And a lot of people were trying to point this out, but I don't think it's like they're trying to just let certain things slip. They don't want anybody talking about this stuff. That's why as soon as James O'Keefe here recently did his whole expose on Pfizer, they had to stop him, and that's why they had pretty much Veritas infiltrated and taken down from the inside. So
That's
we're
true. And that's the same thing they did with WikiLeaks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they got up to over, I think it's over 30 million views on at least Twitter. They had to remove it from YouTube. It went so viral that there was other countries demanding for Pfizer to answer things, and so that's when you started seeing, literally that night, or the weekend of that story. They released both the Tyree footage and they released the Paul Pelosi footage. They were trying to distract people, and then the balloons happened. They kept just doing like psyop after psyop because they didn't want. There was this huge momentum all of a sudden of people saying, "What the hell happened?" and "Who stole my life from me?" And they're still trying to quell that. And then even today, I saw a bunch of memes going viral on Twitter where people were pointing out how like this whole alien thing is another distraction, and so it's not going nothing's going to plan anymore. Like the cat is out of the bag. They're having trouble censoring, so they're bringing AI out because well, they were probably using AI in the past as bots, and that's what people were filled up with in like a lot of these like social media areas. And once people like became aware about that, they had to pull it back again because people knew they were talking to nothing but fake accounts.
Oh
And
yeah, anybody that's spent enough time, like, you know what, I think the most blatant example of the bots on social media is, like, I don't really have a lot of social media, but once in a while I used to I log into like Reddit, and
mm,
everything that everyone says is exactly the same.
yeah,
But
that's,
the
go ahead.
only the only thing I really hope to see is because you're right, people are waking up and they're realizing that their lives were being stolen from them. And I think even that's leading some of them to understand that it's not just their lives, it's their humanity. Now it's their humanity that's at stake. I don't know if you saw the latest World Economic Forum thing. That's the thing I wanted to do a stream on, and I might still try. But the whole thing with the brainwave reading earbuds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they've been using Bluetooth for that stuff for what is going on
Yeah,
for a
the
while
fact.
now.
Yeah, the fact is though that like I think it's I think they're being really aggressive. Like this is why I was saying I think they're being aggressive right now, is because now they're saying, oh, you guys are seeing too much. Well, let me scare you with the idea of no cognitive liberty and tell you about all the ways it can be used in corporate environments and how helpless you are. Because if you pay attention, I imagine that a lot of people that saw that probably immediately felt a feeling of helplessness. But it's not helplessness. It's that you need to hang on to your humanity and your spiritual connection, because if you don't fight for it now, they're going to try and take it away from you. And that's the point of them releasing all that stuff about the brainwave reading earbuds just straight up to the public like that. Because I noticed
Um.
too that right after that was posted and I watched it, I decided to do a quick search online. I didn't use Google, I used like an indexing site, but I noticed the curious lack of fact checkers, or at least not as quickly, as if they just, maybe they wanted people to know, or they just couldn't do it fast enough, or a mix of both.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add about this waking up topic, well, actually, there's two things. Is yes, there are people who are starting to question more. There are people who are starting to, have researched more. But we have to continue to encourage these individuals to jump into the realm of consciousness. A lot of people in the so-called freedom movement are still afraid to dive deeper into the realms of gnosis. They are afraid to dive deeper into the realm of occultism. And I promise you, if we do not continue to dive deeper, we will never ever get to the point of freedom. Because in order for us to solve this real problem at its crux, we have to raise our consciousness above the problem. So we can't continue to stay on this surface level conspiracy theory, just worried about, like the whole left versus right or like mainstream media, um, you know, propaganda. We have to go deeper into the realm of the self. We have to go deeper into the realm of psychology. We have to go deeper into the realm of philosophy. We have to go deeper into the realm of spirituality. We have to go deeper into the realm of nature and understand objective reality. Because if we don't, we will never really come to understand ourselves.
Well,
And
you,
then
you
the
don't want
second,
to. I don't think you want to go too fast too, though, because you'll turn people off right away. Especially like there's it's a double-edged sword. Like, and I want people to like fully understand a lot of this stuff, but at the same time, I understand that like if you go too fast, like the way we want to go, they're gonna like push back, and they're gonna instantly group us in with a anybody within the like one world order, new world order, whatever you want to call them,
right?
and
Yeah,
that's like
yeah. I
that
mean,
that's a danger. Um,
yeah, I mean, like
because
there's always going to be, pressure that's going to, come back at us. But hell, what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who are, like who know what's going on. Like
mhm.
who know that, that the past 3 years was a sham. Those are the individuals who have been researching for, the past couple hell of years. Those are the ones who we should be trying to encourage to go deeper. Not the ones who are just ignorant.
Yeah, I
Because
see.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
I,
yeah. I mean, hell, there are a lot of people who are aware of the conspiracy realm. Those are the ones that we should really be hell encouraging to dive deeper.
I agree with that. We have to understand that the average person is only really going to be able to go one step at a time. So
Yep.
we have to get them to ask, first of all, what is going on? And then why it's going on. And the why it's going on is psychological, it's spiritual, it's a much more complicated question that you can answer in a whole um there's a lot of factors into it because I think a lot of people you're right that a lot of people stay on the surface and it's something that I on this channel have also been trying to get people away from a little bit more because they still put all their time into just getting lost in the noise of what the media is saying and just debunking the next news story and the next news story and the next news story. But I really think in reality, I almost feel like we have to wean people off of this world. First, get them
Right.
to see what's on the surface. Then, get them to see the next level, which I think is um, the lack of accountability is a big aspect of the next level. The people not knowing themselves in the first place.
Yep.
Like people wanting, because a lot of people, no matter what, whether it's the mainstream media, the left wing media, right wing media, or alternative media, there's so many people out here who just want other people to tell them what to think about what's going on because they're so scared. So right now, if we took out the people at the top right now, let's say we woke up and tomorrow and there was no Bill Gates, there was no any of these people. because of the way that people are now and how spiritually and psychologically broken they are, we would just get another round. We would just get the next ones because
Correct.
we are basically with our collective consciousness manifesting this stuff because we keep feeding into it.
Yes. And then to the second point that I wanted to make, which is possibly an even bigger point, is the understanding of objective morality. Because if we want to be free and we want to learn to, incorporate principles into our lives, we have to know how to treat other people. We have to know how to, engage with other people. We have to know how to trade and work and live with other people. So we have to have this, like this form of universal understanding. So freedom is based on her morality. If you look at any kind of communistic society, the reason why they were not free is because they always claimed that the state was the one who brought about objective right and wrong. So that's meaning is saying that the people in that society are immoral because hell, the things that they would do, they felt as though hell, they can rat on their neighbors, they felt as though they can steal from their neighbors, they felt as though hell, they can do violence upon their neighbors. And until man comes to this understanding that pretty much, we all come from the same source, we're, like, even though we may have, different skin tones and speak different languages, and, I may be tall, hell, you may be short, we may have different preferences. We all really inherently come from the same source. So why are we going around and doing wrong to each other, starting wars, using violence? This whole notion that man is evil is 100% wrong and incorrect. This whole notion, that man is just another animal. Again, we have an animalistic component to us, but we really have to dive into our higher forms of thought, into the prefrontal neocortex, and that's where the morality, hell lies. So we really have to get back to the understanding of hell morality, because that is the source of humanity and its evolution and the key to freedom. And that's why a lot of people are still doing exactly what they are doing, is because they don't have that fundamental inherent foundation of objective morality. That's the reason why 2020 and 2021 happened, because people didn't understand morality. That's the same reason why people are still going out and voting and supporting the state, because they don't understand objective morality. The exact same reason why order followers are still killing people and murdering people, because they don't understand objective morality, because they put a paycheck over doing what is morally right.
I think
It's
one of the
that. I'm sorry.
problems. You're fine. I think one of the major problems is actually more of schooling, and a lot of people are like, and I get where you guys are all coming from, but right now kids are not being taught about freedom or any of this stuff, and they're not going to listen to any adults like us. And so, unfortunately, when things like this get this bad, where they've been co-opted, they've already been attacked sexually, they don't know what it is to really be human anymore, and they only think sexual in a sexual fashion and then in an emotional fashion. And so we can come along and try to educate these kids, but if their parents aren't pulling them out of the schooling system, the indoctrination system, we can only go so far. And one of the things that people like us are going to have to also understand is that we're not here 100% to save everybody. And there are a lot of people that have their own path to follow. And you cannot go against like the paths that the spirit has set for spirit God has set for them, because they're on their own conscious wavelength of what they gotta also evolve in. And there is other forms of like a massive awakening that's going to happen spiritually, but that is going to happen within the realms of like God itself. Now, we're getting to the stage where we're done. The job of like communicating a lot of the stuff is going to come to more of an end, where literally they're going to start cutting off the power. And what's really important for people to focus on is like not only just prepping, but like understanding how to survive in such a situation like that. How do you come together with other individuals? Um, when these giant events start taking place and your power goes out and you haven't been making connections with your neighbors and all the people within your neighborhood, you're going to fall very quickly. You can't survive by yourself. And so it's gonna things are gonna happen in stages, and each of us, I do believe that there's gonna be a form of more conscious awakening, but I also believe that there's also a lot of work that we internally need to do ourselves. You know, you want to be a good leader, well then you got to be able to like, you know, help other people in other ways. A lot of
Yeah,
things.
our work is never done. We always have to be we always have to be growing, and we always have to be ready to rise to the occasion. That's why I try to be active in my community, and I try to encourage others to be active in theirs, because it everything starts at home. Everything starts from within, and then within your community, and then you can worry about the big picture stuff, because the macrocosm is a collection of microcosms. You know, you wouldn't have a body without individual cells, and you wouldn't have individual cells without individual like protons and electron like atoms. I mean, sorry, I'm a little bit stoned.
You're right,
Yes,
and
the
I
yeah,
I
you're
agree
talking
with
about
you, Brandon.
correspondence. Yeah. Oh
I'm not
yeah.
trying to like knock you down or anything. I'm just trying to think of like everything as a not only the bigger picture, but like in our own sections where we're gonna actually have to work because it just we would like to have this perfect world where we would actually have this huge amount of like um, be able to reach a lot of people, right? And it's
Mhm.
like even we've all had our own niches. What it comes down to is like we can't change other people's behavior, but we can inspire others. And by doing like more works of good and things, you know, eventually they're gonna like discover on their own a lot of the things that we've come across in our lives, right? Like
Yeah.
in everybody has their own internal struggle. They got to deal with their own internal struggles before they could actually even like start to look into the bigger picture on everything. When you think of
I
Right.
agree with that. And that's kind of part of what I'm saying. Like it has to start with you. You know, even even when I came back to this channel in 2021, I was still having to deal with a lot of my internal demons of my own, and I didn't have at the time I didn't have I didn't have the ability to really help others because I couldn't help myself. But you know, we have to always be helping ourselves, taking care of ourselves, examining our reasoning for doing things, figuring out how to do things better. The second we think we can't be manipulated and we can't grow and all this stuff is the second that we stop being able to be useful. We always have to grow, and we always have to pay attention to what we're doing long before we pay attention to what anyone else is doing. We have to, you know, get the what is it? Get the plank out of our eye before we can worry about the speck in others. And even more importantly, we have to lead by example. I don't necessarily go out of my way to tell people my beliefs. I just live them. I talk to people, but I don't, like I don't proselytize about how people are supposed to be living their lives. I just do it, and then eventually people talk to me about it. Or a lot of times people will have questions if they're around you long enough and they see you living a life of growth.
Right. And hell, that's why we all hell agree that it's important for us to go within our own selves, because until we really start to solve our own internal problems, then how can we really start to, fix the the external environment around us? And that's why, I still kind of refuse to say that there is really a great awakening that is happening, because a lot of people are still running away from that inner work. A lot of people are still running away from that shadow work. They are trying to do it in a reverse order. Is they are focusing on the external first and not focusing on the internal first. And that's what I'm really trying to get, like hell, that's the main thing that I want people to understand, is you have to focus on the internal realm first. Like Hells was talking about, is the aggregate is made of the individual. That's the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so hell above. The macrocosm is made of hell the microcosm. So the macrocosm wouldn't exist if it wasn't for hell the microcosm. So in order to change, in order for us to truly change this external world, and I'm not talking about changing, people, because you really can't. You have to influence them. Then we really have to start within, and then try to inspire them to create change within themselves. So like that's the biggest thing that I want people to to fully take from what I'm saying is you have to start from within, and starting from within is you challenging how what you think is true, you challenging how your belief systems, you challenging how your world views, and also too you starting to heal your trauma, because like Hell said, at the beginning, we are all in this abusive relationship. We all have had forms or versions of trauma, and we really need to heal that trauma. And that's what a lot of people aren't doing. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time, it takes willpower, it takes courage, it takes dedication, it takes knowledge, it takes love, it takes care, it takes sacrifice. There are a lot of things that are required when it comes to, doing that inner work. And that's really what I want to see more people doing. And I know Kyle is doing it, and I know Hales is doing it too. So how we would like to inspire anyone who is listening to to start to take those first few steps, because it's going to take baby steps, because it's like a lifelong journey, to where you may have to face your demons, you may have to face your shadow, you may have to face your persona. You may have to rip that mask off. It may make you feel uncomfortable. It may make you feel some form of emotional attachments, that you may have had to certain memories or certain experiences. And that's fine. You have to learn to live and learn from those things. But just know that those aren't the full totality of your being. So that's really what I was trying to say. And I know we're all just saying it from just different perspectives. So
Thanks, Brandon. Actually, this is a lot of why I wanted to have you on tonight, is because we need to be talking more in depth and about how to go deeper, because people just get so stuck in the conspiracy, because in a way it's just easier if we pay attention, if everybody is paying attention to what Bill Gates is doing and not why Bill Gates got so much power in the first place and what Bill Gates represents, then all of the responsibility is off of the individual and onto whoever they're blaming.
Did you guys see the BBC guy that interviewed Gates and actually called him out, and he started squirming and didn't know really how to answer back?
No, actually, do you have a link to that? Cause I'd love to, you know, or
Let's see if I
I
can
don't know.
find it on Twitter real quick. Yeah, they
Yeah.
basically they said you're a climate czar, yet you fly around in private jets everywhere, and you spew more CO2 out than anybody that we know. And he just like kind of squirmed and didn't know how to really reply back, and he actually got really scared, and then went super viral, at least on
yeah,
Twitter.
I'm not surprised, because the ones who are at the very top, like they are some of the weakest individuals, like the weakest, and that's why they have to feed off other people. So yeah, I'm not shocked to hear that he was squirming, like a little fish, because hell, they're really just weak.
Post in the chat for you both.
All right, cool. Yeah, cause I can, I don't know how long is it? Is there like a
Like a
certain
50,
clip?
it's a 50-second clip.
All right, yeah. Why don't we just pop that on here and enjoy it? Thank you, Kyle. I'm gonna pop, see if I can pop this on for us. Give
You're
me
very
one
welcome.
second. So, an
Here, I
interesting
click.
while I'm getting this up, I have an interesting side note for you guys. Um, I don't know if you guys know this, but a while ago I pretty much removed, like, I didn't have a lot of social media to begin with, but the stuff I did have, like Twitter, and stuff, I pretty much removed it from my life, and then I took the next step and I de-Googled my phone. Like, I removed all of the Google services from my phone. And an interesting thing that I noticed with that is one, I'm not being assaulted by like the flavor of the day agendas as much. I can pay more attention to the things that I think need to be analyzed more deeply that I come across, and I'm not being constantly assaulted with, oh, look at this and this and this and this. I can slow down and pay attention. And because I can slow down and pay attention to everything, I also have been able to slow down and pay attention more to how I use my phone. And as a side note, it uses about 25% less battery because there's not a bunch of spyware running in the background.
Yeah. So yeah, so you started to silence the mind chatter, you
I
know.
did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
did.
that's what people have to learn to do. Yep. You got to quiet the mind, you know, because then that's where focus, you know, that's how you can really start to learn to think and focus and, you know, like really spark some form of creation within the mind.
Yeah.
So,
Let me see if I can get this up. I have it on a different tab. Give me one sec. I'm gonna get this on screen for us.
Heck yeah.
Who doesn't enjoy watching Billy squirm? I can't, I can't resist. You said Billy squirm. I'm like, okay, that's what we're gonna watch today. Because I think this is also important because I don't want people here. I don't want to ever be like one of those YouTube channels or Odyssey channels because this is being streamed to both. I don't want to be one of those people that people watch and they feel more helpless. I want to be able to tell people the bad news and, deal with the issues as they are, but I don't want people leaving my channel thinking, okay, what, so like I can't do anything about this. I can't grow. This is just how it's gonna be.
yep.
Okay, let me just make sure we're getting audio on this thing. Everybody see it okay? Or no, it's not edited yet. Sorry. I'm still trying to figure out this Evamux or whatever a little bit. Alright, let's see if we can get that working.
Click on the two arrows so you can full screen it too. On your
Thank you. I'm sorry. Where
on
are
the
the
on
arrows
the
at?
on the player on Twitter. So on the left there's the play button, and all the way on the right next to the volume there's the full screen. If you full screen it, your people you're streaming to will be able to see the
Oh,
video
great.
better.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I didn't think of that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Thank you. Let's
What do
see.
you say to the
Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear it.
Yes. Yep.
Alright, good.
charge that if you are a climate change campaigner, but you also travel around the world on a private jet, you're a hypocrite?
Well, I buy the gold standard of funding Climeworks to do direct air capture that far exceeds my family's carbon footprint. And I spend billions of dollars on climate innovation. So, should I stay at home and not come to Kenya and learn about farming and malaria? Anyway, I mean, I'm comfortable with the idea that not only am I not part of the problem by paying for the offsets, but also through the billions that my Breakthrough Energy group is spending, that I'm part of the solution.
What do you say to the charge that
Well-
if you
So, yeah, there we go. Listen to that word salad, man. Oh my god. That's
Yeah.
depressing.
It's good that it's funny when they think they're going on their safe television and they actually come across a person that's not buying any of the BS and is sick of their job, and they're actually they're like, oh, I get to interview him, I get to like ask something not to. And April Moss actually did that to some of the Pfizer execs, or actually a Pfizer PR. She was working for CBS, and then she on live on air asked them if they actually had any data on the safety of the vaccines, and they literally just gave a candid response. And she's like, "Funny, I know you. That's not true. I looked into this and kind of called them out." And then that's when she announced that she was quitting CBS and everything. But she got concerned when they gave her cards from Homeland Security that was going to let her buy food and gasoline from an undisclosed location in the future, and she said, "Why would they be giving these out?"
You know, it's interesting that you talk about that because I haven't really been able to completely confirm this yet, but I might know somebody who's got connections with somebody in my general region of California, and they were saying that they're kind of starting to connect try to connect various areas of California into the like the coastal mega region in the Addenda 2030 map. So you got the plus in California, or Clownifornia as I call it, you have the idiots driving around their alien spaceship electric cars. You know, the ones that go when just going by, don't sound nothing like a car. A
Hmm.
lot of people around here have those. And I don't know, man, it's just with the things with the weather and then all the screwy stuff that they're doing with like how in the summer they had the electricity. They're definitely they're definitely playing a lot of little games with us that's eventually going to turn into that where only the people that are willing to toe the party line and deliver the propaganda will be getting gas and stuff from a undisclosed location. It's just like in in when when like Russia and them were under communism and all that, it was the people in the party that were the ones that were working for the party that got a little more over everybody. Same with 1984, I think.
Yep, how that's how cults work. If you're part of the cult, if you're, if you have the cult identity, then you are part of the family. You are in the group, so you get all the handouts. But once you are deemed as, one who is an outsider, and you are the enemy. And that's how they use this as a means to control, through fear, through survival, because you tap into people's lower base R complex, hell reptilian like hell in hell instincts, and then hell therefore because they're just stuck in survival, they will do anything to survive. So they'll go along hell with the herd, they'll go along hell with the group, they'll go along with the German thoughts. So anyone who thinks un-German thoughts is not part of the cult, and they will be dealt with and they will be handled, unfortunately. That's sort of what we saw, 2 years ago. If you wasn't part of the cult, then you didn't get the handouts and all of the cute little goodies that came held along with it.
Yeah, if you didn't want to wear your slave mask, you weren't gonna go get groceries.
Yep. But that's how cults have always worked. And
Yeah.
sadly, people still need to, learn that it's really a death cult who is behind the scenes, who is running the show. It's a Saturnian death cult that's still running the show since day one.
Yeah, plus it's always the law of reversal with them. You know, if they tell you it's something for your life, then it's really about your death.
Yeah.
Like the March for Our Lives and the arm juice and all that stuff. That was not about life, that was about death.
Yeah. They invert everything, like masters at inversion. So, yeah, when they say they're here to help, then you know exactly what that means. They're here to save lives. You know exactly what that means.
Right. All right.
The
Just
really the sad thing I think for me is I know some people with very significant mental health issues, some of which are otherwise nice people, but they were taken so hard by the agenda that they still feel like one of them I know still is so afraid of the cough that they insist on wearing a mask everywhere. And there are still a minority, but still enough of a minority where you notice where they've just like whatever it was like that exploited something inside of them so deeply that they will follow it to the end, even long after it stopped being the trendy thing to do.
Yeah, now it's like an incorporated ritual. It's no different than how brushing your teeth, or because how man is a creature of rituals. How rituals has always been a part of how life. We all have our little things when we get up. We all may do a little ritual before we go to bed. But now, people have incorporated this this mockery ritual because it's really just a mockery. Hell, again, they use mockery to mock us. So they have incorporated this mockery ritual into their everyday lives as a part of them. So now to them it's no different than getting up and brushing their teeth. It's no different than putting on shoes and tying up your shoes. It's an everyday diaper ritual, which is really just a mockery ritual, which is really just a symbol that you are a slave who doesn't think. And sadly, a lot of these people are going to unfortunately take this mockery ritual to their death. So, because I still see people in my area who wear, who wear those diapers, and sadly, I think those people should be mocked because at at this stage in the game, man, I mean, and mind you, hell, I've got loved ones who still wear those diapers, and I mean, hell, they don't get no love from me because they are the ones who will be unfortunately calling for help my demise when that time comes. And it's not hate coming from my end, but when you try to like offer someone that hand and gratitude, that hand and knowledge, and it's slapped away, the only thing you can do is have that form of tough love. And sadly, because some people are more hard-headed, they may have to suffer to learn.
Yeah, it is unfortunate like that.
you know
I've gotten to the point
Sometimes
where
chaos is needed. Sometimes
I have lost patience, and I'm not necessarily mean about it, but I do lose patience. I'm like, how are you still going along with this? And even if they're not like calling for your demise now, they still were
the
3
cow.
years ago.
That was weird. We lost you for a second.
Yeah, I was starting to worry. Maybe a knock on the door or a knock on the internet, maybe. Somebody's a little bit upset. They're just like, "Oh God, they're talking about accountability and growth. We can't have that on the internet. Get rid of them."
Yeah. No. I think. I don't really know. Apologize. I'm getting tired.
Alright, so I wanted to just really quick. There's a comment here that I wanted to address right here. By Frank, the only way to control the narrative is to control both sides of it. And yes, they are very good at that. Um, like I remember in the beginning with COVID, actually one of the biggest things that I think they really got right with with the COVID stuff was knowing how to market it to both conspiracy theorists and the opposite side. It eventually stopped working. But remember how at first COVID was kind of a conspiracy thing where it was like, oh, it was a man-made thing in a lab, and look at all those people, and they're dying, and they're being censored as they're falling in the streets. It's like they've gotten very, very good at marketing what they want people to believe to both sides. eventually that marketing falls away, but they can they can even manage to flip the script on people, like how some people didn't want the Trump vaccine, but as soon as Biden got in, they were all for it. It's just they know how to push. They know what to say to both sides of the argument to get them to fall in line with a solution for at least a limited amount of time.
Sorry, I'm trying to see. I'm making fun of Vanderqueen.
Oh no, it's completely fine. I figured that's what you were furiously typing about.
I think Twitter just removed it because I tagged him in it, so I'm gonna repost it. I'm not having this.
All right, cool, man. You
No,
know
but
what?
I'll stop talking about that.
I
Sorry.
will still, later on I'll catch up with you about that because I might actually send you some propagandists from California, and we'll tag team them like we did with Vanderqueen.
Okay.
Even though I try not to spend too much time on Twitter. Once in a while I make the exception because sometimes you log into there and there's just so much stupid that you just can't handle it any other way. You have to address the stupid.
Well, I've broken them.
Oh, I know. I saw the screenshots, dude. Yeah, Frank, he gets really serious about Chris Vanderqueen, a nice Colorado propagandist.
We lost Brandon again.
Yeah, I hope Brandon isn't getting some knocks on the door. Yeah, one of these days I feel like I'm gonna hear since I live over in California and I'm out there trying to do stuff. I'm sure I'm gonna get a eventually.
I would hope not. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they're gonna go around and do things like that.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
it'd
I'm
be a
not
little.
saying literally. I'm saying like I'm gonna, I'm someday if I get a little too close to the mark, I might I might inspire something. Let me just sorry about that. Hopefully you can stay with us.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. For some reason, my screen froze and everything was still working and coming through. So I just jumped out and jumped back in. So you can kick the old me out.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
kick the old one out with the old in with the new.
yeah. So
Frank says they're honing into my location now. Oh no! They're coming. They're coming to California. I feel like if there was anywhere in the country you would expect some serious clownery going on, it'd probably be like here or New York City.
yeah,
It seems like a lot of things. Seems like a lot of things tend to come out of one of those two places. It's that's usually where it starts. One of those two places. Once in a while it'll start somewhere else, but I feel like definitely with the Rona stuff, there was a lot of California and New York in the news.
I wonder, did Dr. Comia go to California? What were those 8 states? Dr. Comia Assassin. You guys probably don't know this. This is one of the doctors that they were. She's like a health influencer. She's a heart doctor that became a disease quote unquote expert amongst COVID. She also worked on every shooting here in Colorado, pretty much, from my understanding.
Do you have anything you'd like me to display for the
Oh no,
folks at home?
I gotta find out.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you do, let me know. I don't know how to give you the right to share your screen, but
Oh,
if
there's a
you
button I can click on.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know whether or not um you had that right. I'm used to still kind of used to StreamYard.
No, it just brings up 8 states. What are the 8 states?
Does anybody here know any of the 8 states? Cause
Mm.
I'm not familiar.
I know she was New York was one of them. Where are the news articles? I don't know if they were telling the truth or not, so that's why like
A lot of times
I'm
they
getting ready to
aren't.
do a huge drop on Twitter on her. I went through a bunch of her social media and everything, and basically they claim that she's like, I'm working on the front lines, I'm super tired, blah blah blah, but she's on like TikTok, she's like going on CNN, she's then going on like Fox, then she's going on MSNBC, NBC, she's doing all these interviews. A lot of it was also copy and pasting. I've noticed that a lot of the news organizations will copy and paste the same article, literally.
Yep.
Usually
Yep.
that's
Yep.
because it's written by an AI, like chat.
Economic factors taking the spring out of the Easter bunny. That's what I think of. Economic factors taking the spring out of the Easter bunny. That's just another version of that. Cause you literally a lot of times like I'll do this because sometimes I'll fall down one of these rabbit holes and I'll notice that there are so many there are so many articles that say literally the exact same thing and they all cite each other.
Yep. They're all getting them from
MSM
the same source. Yep.
MSM news is lazy too. Yeah, it's all lazy. They don't even feel like they need they're so deep, they're so far up their own asses at this point that like they don't feel like they need to put any effort into it at all. Like they don't even hire decent crisis actors anymore.
I don't think they really need to.
No, I mean now they can just take old like half the time they take they just take old like screenshots of a movie and say it's a war, or now they just probably make shit with AI. Be like, um, give me a picture of a creepy guy that's like a little bit more real than Adam Lanza, but still not all that believable.
Wag the dog scenario. Yeah,
It,
hell, they can always just take some older pictures. Have they been caught using, you know, older pictures from like years ago for the whatever the hell is happening in Ukraine right now. Hell, you, and that's why you can't trust them. Hell, you can't trust anyone who works for the mainstream media. Now, mind you, very, 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 very rarely will they put out a very small inkling of like of truth. You always have to do, of course, your due diligence and your research and use discernment. But majority of the time, they're just lying, because that's what the media has always been used as a tool against the people. And that's what people don't quite understand, is they have this idea as though how the media is there to tell you the truth that is incorrect. The media was used to put out propaganda in Nazi Germany. How the media was used to put out propaganda in communistic Russia. How the media was used to put out propaganda in the slave days. It was no different than when how the first printing press came out. How the rich ones are the ones in control. We use how we're using that media in the form of time to put out propaganda. No different than when the boy would be on the corner of the street shouting, hell, what happened? Hell, last night. They would always pay the kid a little extra money and favors to lie and put out propaganda. That was the media during that time.
yeah, hey, we even had our Operation Mockingbird here. A lot of and a lot of Americans, at least for a very long time. And I've seen this change in my lifetime because, as you guys know, I kind of grown up. During I grew up during like the internet takeover and all this stuff, and like the some of the biggest shifts. I've seen some of the biggest shifts, and there was a point where most people thought America was exceptional and there wasn't corruption in the elections, and Americans were somehow immune to propaganda. But now I feel like we've gotten to a point where a lot of people, except for the very, very old ones, will accept that there is propaganda and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yep.
There,
We got it in our comfort zone.
let me, just, Frank wants to share a fact with us. He says, yo, speaking of that, I learned something today. The creator of the Twilight Zone created it because the media refused to let him speak on the killing of an innocent black man. That's interesting. I did not know that.
And yeah, and some of them Twilight Zone, some of the original episodes were freaking phenomenal.
Oh, I know. I watched them. I
Yeah,
watched
they were
them.
phenomenal.
Believe it or not, I found them on Netflix a few years ago, and I ended up watching through a bunch of them because I noticed that like there was just a lot that people discuss in the Twilight Zone, and I had never seen it, so I went and watched the original ones in black and white.
Yeah, I think you can find them on Odyssey still. But yes, I love the original ones. I think it was what Rod Stewart or Rod Sterling. Yeah, Rod Sterling.
Yeah,
I
Rod
think was
Sterling, I think.
yeah, yeah. He was trying to to alert people, hell, of what was coming, and hell, shout out, appreciate the heads up. Sadly, enough people didn't pay attention, but yeah, the whole propaganda stuff, hell, like you were saying earlier, hell, people get comfort, people get cozy, people get lazy, and sadly, hell, that's what's happened. Hell, people had this idea that, hell, the United States of America could not be infiltrated. It can never happen here. We have checks and balances, and hell, we have all this security, and hell, blah blah blah, blah hell, blah blah blah. But of course, we all know why every great civilization falls throughout history, because they start to fall from within, from lack of principles, lack of morality, hell, ignorance, and of course they become so hell immoral, and that's what's happened to us because we got comfortable, we got lazy, hell, we got cozy, and then and then we stop educating ourselves.
Yeah, it's just people get to a point, and it's just as prevalent of a thing in the truth community as it is to the in those who believe in the mainstream. People get to a point where they think that they understand enough, and they can't be manipulated. Stuff you see this, you see it everywhere, and the second that you believe that you can't be manipulated, as I always say, is the second that you're the most vulnerable.
Yep.
You can play that video if you want. That TikTok video. It's kind of disgusting, but that's Dr. Sasson. She's using her own child for propaganda, and she even messes up on the narrative too. It's kind of funny. Like her daughter, I don't know if her daughter messes up or if she like tells her daughter to mess up. I'm not sure.
All right, yeah. Let me get this. Let me get this for you real quick. I'm just gonna close. I'm gonna actually close some tabs so we don't get any weird sound. All right. All right. I see. We got your Oh God. I hate doing anything with TikTok, but for right now TikTok is going to be useful here. So, I have not gotten a TikTok. I will never get a TikTok. I have people who encourage me to get one all the time here, and this is a hill I'm going to die on. But today we're going to use TikTok just for this one thing. All right. Are you able to share or do you want me to?
I can. Let me see here.
I have it on a tab already, but I just wanted to offer.
I can do it on this side.
Yeah, you can if you want. I'm gonna.
I don't know how.
Do you want me to? I can add it for you. Here you go.
Is it should be showing, right? Is my
Yes,
screen showing?
it is
Yep,
showing.
it's showing.
I added it
And I
for
are
you.
here to give you back to school
Oh
tips.
wow, it's like echoing. I can't tell if that's on my end or is it coming through the video? Was it echoing for you guys?
No.
Okay.
No.
Madeline and I are here to give you back to school tips.
Wear a mask.
Socially distance 3 feet.
I thought it was 6
Get
feet.
vaccinated.
Oh
Madeline
Lord.
and I are here to
Like, all right, I'm gonna stop sharing now. But that's Dr. Sasson. She was using her own child for propaganda. And
Yeah, you
as
know, my
3
first
feet instead of 6 feet. I thought that was funny. 'Cause
I
the-
did too. That's what happens when you try to use like what, a 5-year-old for propaganda?
Well, she went along with it though. She's the one. If you looked at her hand, she put up 3. Like she was 100% like saying it was 3 feet, and they never. I don't recall them ever saying that throughout the entire pandemic. They always started with 6 feet, and yeah.
Yeah,
But-
that's true. I was honestly I was so focused on the blatant child abuse for a second that
Yeah.
sorry about that. Yes, like as soon as I saw that mask, I was just like, child abuse.
Yep, and using
Yeah.
your own kid too, to push it.
Oh, Frank said it's the rule for kids under 6. Shaking my head, I don't know, it's sickening. Yeah. So I wasn't aware. I did know that. So here's another interesting thought about that. You know, they were always like, "Oh, you know, kids don't really get COVID." You know, it was true in even the numbers that they gave us, which were still ridiculous even when they tried to inflate the hell out of them. But like there were no there was like nothing about kids getting the Rona, and then the vaccine came out and suddenly all these kids were getting Rona. And I guess they had all these different rules. I think it was under 2 didn't have to wear masks, and then now I realize it's under 6, which, as Mary points out, everything is 6 with them. Everything is 6.
Well, it's an occult number.
Well, yeah, I know. It is, but it's just if you start thinking about it, it's kind of funny to point it out. It's just like, oh look, there's another 6, and if there's not a 6, it's a 33, and if it's not a 33, it's a 3. And 9s and 11s, and boy do they just love those numbers. It's like, yeah, they love their they love toying with us that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't even notice it. It's like, why is somebody in a news story always 33 years old?
Yeah. Someone just posted on Twitter that you heard about the train collision, right?
Yes.
In Ohio.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yep.
Okay, so like a bunch of toxic gas chemicals just went all over the place. There are 75,000 farms in that state. 90% of them are family farming operations. So like something that was not widely really reported on by the government, where it seems like something was, it's gonna affect the food supply.
Yeah, that, and I don't know, did you guys ever watch my last stream?
I
Yes.
don't think I got a chance to, unfortunately.
In the beginning of that stream, I was like hardcore bitching about the lack of eggs. Because like eggs are priced really high, obviously, because of that quote unquote avian flu excuse.
It's different for each state. My state is because they actually made it so they couldn't. They changed the law so that they had to put. They wanted chickens not to be in such an enclosed space, so they put them in 12 by 12 pens, and none of the farms could actually handle that. The next excuse was it was the avian flu flu, which wasn't necessarily true. And I'm pretty sure if I looked into California, they did the same thing. They said all the farms here in that are raising chickens, they had to like change everything, and that's what all these Democrat governors were doing. They were changing that stuff around. I mean, it's getting they claim the avian flu across the board, but a lot of it was these companies didn't have the money to change the farming or the infrastructure around for the new go green laws that they're trying to push. And um, now the point of that I see the avian flu actually is forced because they're going to go in and they're going to put mRNA vaccines into the chickens so that we eat that and consume that and then get that into our bodies. So that's where I see that kind of angle playing out
Yeah,
more.
that and then just the shortage of stuff. They want to, cause eggs, like shortages of eggs, kind of work twofold, because what comes out of eggs? Chickens. So you've got a staple taken out because there's so many things we use eggs for, and then you have you know, a big source of our protein also taken out because I don't know about you guys, but I eat a lot of chicken.
Yeah, chicken's probably one of the most eat more than beef actually. That's why they're going after it right now.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing is I was complaining about Trader Joe's because all the woke and sheeple type people tend to go there, and I swear to you, especially as time goes on, at least in my Trader Joe's, it's easier to find milk alternatives than it is to find actual milk most of the time. Or just alternatives. You have to like really look at the packaging because then it's like you'll think you're picking up beef and it'll be like plant-based alternative or whatever. And you find more of that than you do the actual food you're looking for a lot of the time. M10
Yeah,
says M10 says avian flu on seals now. What?
Oh, they're going to claim it's happening to all animals because they want to vaccinate everything across the board. Because you got to control every single aspect of everything and get people to get it in our blood. And
yep. This death cult, like like just want to extinguish life. Like just want to extinguish creation. Like that's what we are dealing with. It ain't just us. Who they want. It's like they want to destroy life itself. I mean, because like, why would you want to help vaccinate other animals? Like that's just like the psychopathic mind going in like freaking overdrive. Like fifth gear,
You know
just
what's
straight
in,
crazy.
you know what's interesting to me? When I watched that World Economic Forum thing recently, you know what crossed my mind? It might be a really stupid question, but like have you ever just sat around and thought about how cartoonish of a plot this world domination thing is and how similar it is to Saturday morning cartoons? And then I got down to like first of all those cartoons and superhero movies are programming more than in more ways than one, but
Yep.
also it's just like with these psychopaths, they're never going to be happy. Because they'll control everyone. They won't be happy with that. They'll kill everyone, and then they won't be happy with that. What are they gonna do when they run out of things to kill? Are they just gonna start killing each other, or what's like? There's no satisfaction for the psychopath because they are empty, spiritually void people. They're void of everything that makes people human, and maybe that's part of the reason that they want to extinguish humanity both spiritually, psychologically, and physically because they envy what others can have that they can't have because they're empty people.
Yeah. And to talk about cartoons, I don't know if y'all have remember Pinky and the Brain.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, from the Animaniacs. And what was it? Brain would always say, try to take over the world. Whenever Pinky would ask, And then when I think Jordan Maxwell had broke this down, hell, when you listen to the actual theme song, man, like it's actually getting deep because it's talking about ways, like they are actually trying to take over the world by, like using how mind control and like freaking using hypnosis and shit that we are going through now. So hell, it's funny how that you brought that up because yes, it is in a lot of cartoons, especially ones that we grew up with. So
Darkness always consumes itself eventually, is what Frank says. But
yeah.
on another note with the cartoons, I I watched a video on Odyssey, I think, where where somebody was talking about cartoons. And you know what was an interesting point that I never really thought about the cartoons that a lot of us grew up with is that a lot of cartoons are episodic, or like they don't have continuity. I think it's called episodic. They don't have continuity between them, so everything that is done in an episode of a cartoon has to be undone by something by the end of episodes. So it may have brainwashed kids into believing that they can't really progress. Like how we had cartoons where, the person always stays the same age and everything is new, everything has to be undone that happens in the cartoon. It was just an interesting thing that I personally never really thought that hard about, but it's definitely interesting to note how they kind of maybe brainwashed kids into believing that they never can completely progress and it'll always be the same.
Now, that's a great point. Now that I think about it, because when you have like a television show in a season, how there is how progression. Like in order to understand like episode 5, you got to watch 1, 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, like you say, hell with a cartoon, there is no progression. Like pretty much like each episode is separate or how different than how the next episode, and by the time you get to the end of the episode they either have resolved whatever problem or fixed it, so the next episode starts off different. So yeah, hell, that is a great point, and I've never have thought about that. If you can find that video, hell, can you share it with us?
I absolutely can. The other thing that I've personally been thinking about, especially since, Trump got elected, is the way that superhero movies program people. Like what is always the central theme of a superhero movie or a Saturday morning cartoon besides the lack of progression is, have you ever noticed that there's always a supervillain with a world domination plan
Yep.
and all of the people are helpless except for the heroes? So I think through over time people got fallen angel worship is what Frank said, but there people got so used to the idea that, hey, if things get bad, someone will come save us, that they Trump became that hero for a lot of people, but obviously that didn't work out. But people are always looking for someone, just like they're looking for someone to think for them. They're looking for someone to do for them. They're looking for someone to save them because they don't feel like they could save themselves because of the learned helplessness, and because in those plots it's always like it just the control of the supervillain is so complete that you pretty much need a superhero to with superpowers to actually save the world from it. And none of the citizenry ever stands up themselves and tries. If they do, they just get destroyed. So people got really used to that narrative of the villain has this crazy plan, the hero is the only one that can stop it, and no one else can do anything.
Hell, hell, you just brought up one of the most important archetypal themes in man's history, and it's called the hero's journey. How this this has been used in the Bible. This has been used in hell the Quran. How this has been used in so many books. This archetypal theme has been replayed in so many myths and so many forms of entertainment. Star Wars, hell Harry Potter. If people aren't familiar with who Joseph Campbell was, I highly encourage them to go and look into his work because he was one of the pioneers when it comes to storytelling and myths and archetypes and themes within these myths, and one of the archetypal themes that he would always talk about was the story of the hero's journey, because technically, that's really what we are all trying to do within our own life, because we are spirits, or we have a spirit and we have a soul, and that soul is constantly making a voyage or a journey. So in this lifetime, we have struggles, we have problems, but we have to overcome those things. So in order to educate the youth, the stories of myths were always used as a form to get you to relate yourself as the main character and to get you to understand objective reality or certain concepts. So myth was very important because this was at a time before they had technology. This was at a time before they had, movies and entertainment. So the spoken word was the way to educate people. And that's why myth has always been important when it comes to imagination and creativity and really understanding yourself. So the story of the hero's journey has been used and is possibly have one of the greatest themes as far as Hollywood and entertainment, because whenever you have this individual who has to make this journey and they have to overcome something either within themselves or a evil villain, like you said, or maybe something that happened in their past, there's always some form of progression that takes place, and that's the story of the myth in the hero's journey.
That's true. That it always has been, and stories have always been a form of propaganda. They've that's what
Yep.
yeah, I mean, even the Roman Empire, like how did they get people to put their faith in the Roman Empire? They they passed down these stories and they exaggerated stories over time to get people to see how powerful Rome was. Basically, people from Rome.
Yep.
This
Stories are
is
very powerful.
Yep. Stories are the best, probably the one of the better form of propaganda in in our world. It's always that's always been the best way because stories appeal to emotions. They appeal to our human desire to connect with people. And
Yep.
when emotions are appealed to, it's a lot harder to look at things with logic because our decision making as human beings is not necessarily dictated by logic. In fact, logic is only a small part of what drives our emotions or our decision making. That's why so many things that we do, even if they're not necessarily stories, so many forms of propaganda, including like the quote unquote art they use to push things, has to appeal to the emotions and the less conscious, less critically thinking parts of the human mind and spirit.
Right. And once you become a storyteller, we all know the power of words is how you implore this story to that can enhance, its effects. If anyone has ever, sat around a campfire, with children, and like told a story, you kind of get into character, like you kind of get that energy as though, you were, getting ready for a play or a form of movie. So this was the original form of entertainment per se. This was the original form of teaching and learning. But not all stories are bad, just as though, not all stories are good. It's just a story. It's up to you, the individual, to incorporate that story within your own life.
Yes. Okay, hi. I want to just quickly welcome Robert in here and welcome back Kyle.
Thanks.
Howdy, guys. What's going on?
How
Not
you
much.
doing today, buddy?
Not so
Hey, what's
bad.
going
How do I
on?
sound?
You
Good.
sound great.
All right, good. Yeah, man. Yeah, you know, if we didn't have lemons, we wouldn't have lemonade or beer. But I digress. My God. How you guys been doing?
Good.
I'm doing all
Been doing
right.
well.
A little tired, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, are you actually tired or are you a different kind of tired?
No, I'm actually tired. I didn't get much sleep last night.
Okay, yeah. If you want, Kyle, you don't have to stay much. You can leave whenever you'd like, or you can
No,
stay as
no,
long as
no,
you'd like.
no,
It's
no.
up
You
to
don't.
it's up to
He
you,
has to
man.
stay. He's got to stay. He's got to
I
stick
would
around.
ra-
I just showed up.
I would rather him stay and fold to our peer pressure. But I'm saying he doesn't have to fold to peer
Yeah,
pressure.
for sure, for sure. But stick around. What's that? I don't know. There's a
Stick
euphemism there somewhere.
around, settle down.
There we go. Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah, I've been going through a bit of a hellstorm over here. I got to move, so I'm probably going to be relocating once again. Just seems to happen every couple of months or so. So hopefully I can get my act together. But back to Ontario I go. So I'll be in the same time zone as you there, Cerebral.
Oh, right on, brother.
Yeah. So probably in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sorry you have to move again.
Oh God. You know, just as I get everything set up, it's like boom, everything fucking goes down the toilet. So that's how it works, I guess. But hopefully it's going to be for a better outcome because I think the next stage is going to be far more stable, if I would.
Heck yeah, man. I hope so.
So
Yeah, I
what's
hope that for you too.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys. I mean, what about this goddamn Project Bluebeam stuff, man? They're shooting down UFOs everywhere all of a sudden. Have you guys noticed?
Yeah.
You
Was-
know something? It's funny that you mentioned the UFO stuff because I went to a store to go get some stuff the other day, and there was a guy that was there, and it's kind of like a pot themed store. So
Right.
I went in there, and he started talking to me. He's like, "What do you think about aliens, man?" I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "I think they're there. They just don't interact with us right now." And just like the fact that people like
I'm in
I've been
space.
hearing a lot about aliens from people lately. And honestly, I thought that we were gonna see some Project Bluebeam stuff by now. Like I thought that they were gonna, because things were getting so crazy
Uh,
in 2020. I was just like, what's next? Aliens?
well, we talked about this back in like 2015, maybe 2016, the Operation Bluebeam stuff. We talked about the white papers that were written up about this, the false alien narrative that's in the Illuminati card deck. I mean, we covered this. It's like this is coming down the pipe, and you got the Pentagon. Now, I'm not saying that all parties involved aren't necessarily, because some of the independent researchers, like I'm not sure about Jeremy Corbell. He could be uh, you know, counter dissidents. I don't know. Maybe he's legit. Bob Lazar. You throw all these other actors into the scene, and you get this weird picture. But now, like you got the Pentagon confirming, yeah, well, the Tic Tac thing, and they created an entire organization. Was it ATIPS? That have been researching this stuff. And now they're going public with these really, really bad thermal images of video footage. I don't know, man. Like it just seems to line up, and then all of a sudden, first the thing that started the chain was China. That their surveillance balloon that they just shot down. Took two F-22s and a couple F-18s or something, I believe, or F-16s. I'm not sure,
Are we?
but
Wait a minute. Are we living so deeply in the idiocracy that we can't shoot down a fucking balloon without the military help?
dude, it's just ridiculous. Like it's like you could just watch where it goes. Maybe jam it with
Yeah.
like you could jam its radio communications. I mean, we
Maybe
got
what you can do is you can just throw a big giant you can throw a big giant tack up there and just pop it and just watch all the air go out. Like, I don't know.
get a
What?
really large magnifying
Dude.
glass. Just reflect the sun through a magnifying glass and pop it in midair. I mean, it's just ridiculous the
Oh
amount of
man.
publicity that got. But then now, like one got shot over the Yukon, one got shot over coming into Canadian airspace, and of course our prime minister eats that up like it's like, oh my God, thank God we could talk about something else. You know?
Oh my god. Oh my god, eh? There's a balloon in our airspace, eh?
Well, apparently it was a
Look out
car-sized
for it.
object. They're not calling these ones balloons though. This like these other things may not be balloons. They're car-sized objects and they're unidentified.
Hey, wait a minute. You know what? Where is Mary when we need Mary? Because Mary was the one that was talking to me about this. Where the hell is M10? Come on. She was the one that was talking to me about balloons the last time I hopped online.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Is
yeah. It just gets dumber and dumber every day.
the only funny joke that Saturday Night Live did recently is about that balloon. It's like that's funny. I don't know. Look it up on Google. I don't know or whatever you.
Yeah. Frank said, "Don't fall for Project Bluebeam, Wheels. You're smarter than that. That's the plant for other reasons." Oh yeah, I know. I'm completely aware. I mean,
Yeah.
the alien thing has been around forever because it's just just a big distraction. And it could be used to cover for so many things. It's just,
Well,
you know,
I
what's it
always
been?
used.
Like
Well,
7 years or 70 years, I mean, at least of alien shit.
well,
No
it's
aliens
funny.
yet.
About 6 years ago, when we used to talk about this, it was interesting because it would be like, okay, they'd talk about, it'd be a false flag operation, it'd be a psyop, the whole bit with like, this false alien invasion. I said, what if aliens actually invaded? you know, what if, like, what, I always propose that idea, like, just because we think everything's a fabrication, what
Well,
if something actually happened? That would be a perfect time to do it. It's like, ha,
well, to
they
be
won't see it
fair,
coming.
half of our fucking leaders already look like aliens. So would we really even be able to tell the difference?
Well, true story. And there's actually a lot of like proof coming up that we may have been already multiplanetary prior to the young Dryas period and before the other cataclysms. That had been proven by ice core samples. So we may have been very well a spacefaring race already. We have other versions of ourselves from other planets. So I don't know. It's a big can of worms. It's a huge fucking rabbit hole, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
but-
it is. And to be honest, I haven't really looked into Bluebeam enough to really have much of an opinion on it. I
Yeah.
just because 2020 was so crazy, like I was saying earlier, I don't know how much of the stream you watched before you came in here, but
Oh, yeah.
I was saying earlier that because 2020 was so crazy, I was expecting them to be like, "Oh, and by the way, aliens," at some point by now, because I was like, it was just so retarded that
Well,
basically,
the timing is crucial, right? And if you go back
Yeah.
to all the the Hegelian dialect, if you go back to the problem reaction solution thing, it's the same. It's the same pattern. Like this is it's being distributed exactly the same. It's all being done with imagery. It's being done with reports. It's pulling in different communities together. And I always go back to the what is it? Oh Jesus Christ. The Trans-Pacific Partnership. I always go back to that because that bonded 14 countries in agreement to carry out whatever their missions may be, and that's huge. Like I don't think people understand the implications of that because as soon as something happens anywhere in the media, bam, 14 countries are already coinciding, and the Associated Press is distributing all the fucking news everywhere. So it's like, okay, one story goes out to everyone. I mean, it's a diabolical construct, and maybe there is a controlling class because we were multiplanetary. There's a good narrative in I don't know if you guys remember the old science fiction movie, and it became a series called Alien Nation, and it was basically a species that crash lands on Earth, and they're basically slaves, and they had overseers, but because they crash landed, they were kind of, I don't know, brought into the human sphere. It was a really interesting narrative, if I'm being honest, but it could have been predictive programming too, if I'm being fair. But I mean, at the same time, it's I forgot where I was going with the point. I just smoked a joint, so hey, that rhymed.
That's funny. I apologize, everyone. I'm not being so talkative.
It's all good, man. I smoked a joint before I came over here because that was the only way that I could sit through Rihanna's music long enough to try and get any
Jeez.
idea.
I still have it. I've seen the highlights, and this is good enough for me. I don't even want to watch it. I don't want to put that out back into the universe with photons. I don't even want to put that into my head.
They didn't even really do much. It's kind of hilarious. Like, I saw a clip that she was like, yeah, I had to like take 2 hour set and put it into 13 minutes. It was so difficult, and how terrible it is that I can't do my entire show at the football. And you like watch like a little bit of it, and you're like, this is such garbage. You guys don't even like. It's not like it almost looked like they didn't even put any effort in other than throwing their the black fist up and doing the whole a lot of communist colors and the Russian Federation kind of like symbolism. But
I saw what they did at the award show. Like,
that
was just what? That was like
over the top.
That was triggering worship genes in people. I don't know what that was. That was intense. I was like,
I think I was telling, Hells and everyone, I'm convinced that they toned everything down after that because it got too much attention. Like, they thought they got the wrong kind of attention that they wanted. Like, they wanted people to, like, see it, obviously, but when they threw the Pfizer thing up, then it just went viral on Twitter, and then people were kind of like, it just got the Pfizer story going again, and then they were kind of pissed off. They're like, that's not what we were trying to do. We were trying to be satanic and be edgy to get you all to come in and like watch this, and then lowest viewership in once again in history. It just keeps going down. People are slowly tuning out and just don't want to watch that crap anymore.
Yeah,
they still tuned into the stupid Super Bowl. I even see like a lot of people I didn't expect to be like talking about it, and they're all tweeting about it like constantly.
Right.
Well, to be fair, I am guilty of watching football sometimes. I like the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? That's just I can't, but you know what the problem for me is? I can't sit through a freaking football game because the programming is just so intense. Like, I can't just sit and watch a football game straight anymore. I have to turn away from the commercials eventually. Like, it's terrible.
I can go to a football or baseball or sports event like in person, and then you get that collective kind of energy and that feeling. I mean, that becomes enjoyable, when you get people throwing their beers at the back of your head, that kind of thing. Like, it's awesome. But it's I can't watch it on TV. I don't even have cable, so like, I mean, I don't go out of my way to watch sports anyway, because the whole sports league thing, like organized sports, like I'm just not a fan. I'd rather take part. I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
You know what I mean?
I'd rather play it.
Yeah. Like, but I mean, that being said, though, I mean, it's funny if I'm at the pubs or whatever. I do enjoy seeing other people getting like, like during playoffs and things like that. Like when there's like some kind of, it's you know what I mean? It's not the grind. This is the end. You know what I mean? Like, this is like where there's stakes involved and shit. I do enjoy other people's energy, like, being at the pub watching a game. That's kind of cool. But I mean, ultimately I don't follow the shit. I never did.
Yeah, I was more looking to see if they were gonna have. Last year they had a lot of predictive programming for the Ukraine stuff, so I was just thinking like this year it was definitely like, it's the same. It was like it seemed toned down.
Yeah.
I was telling Kyle in the room earlier. I'm like, dude, I'm actually disappointed with this halftime show. Like we were kind of bummed.
Right. Just typing in a message to a buddy here. Can you
Yeah.
say that again?
I said it was like it was almost disappointing trying to watch the halftime show because you were expecting all this stuff because they've been so aggressive with pushing things forward. I was expecting like all this just crazy aggressive stuff, and it was just low hanging fruit and trash music I had to get had to get stoned to deal with.
You know what? I saw your comments popping up on Discord during that, and that was me tapping into your bad experience of watching that. So thank God I didn't have to fucking endure it.
They're
You know what?
they're rioting
Thank
in Philadelphia right now over the Super Bowl.
I forget if I gave up watching the Super Bowl to be here with you because it was just even though I like Philly team, I'm like I can't, can't deal with this programming. So what did they win?
Hmm.
I don't know. I just know that in Philadelphia they're rioting right now.
Dude, I'm sorry. Philadelphia riots no matter what.
Yeah.
Like they do. They're just like I was just like, what, bro? Like, listen, I'm from that general area of the country. I lived pretty, at one point. That's like I was from that general area where we follow the Philly teams and stuff. Bro, even some of us were just like, why the hell are you rioting when they fucking won? They won the game. Why are you mad? Did you just have to get out some pent up rage because you live in Philadelphia and this is the only
Woo!
thing? Like, damn, I don't know.
I don't know any reason to smash a window. I guess I don't know.
I suppose so.
But again, like I was saying before about like being at an event, when you get that energy, like it is a collective thing. So it's definitely some kind of a mob, mass mob mentality. Like there's definitely a thing there. Like, you know what I mean? It's like insects, crickets. Like when they get gregarious and there's a lot of them, they literally physically change into locusts and just go fucking wreaking havoc everywhere. It's not even fun. But yeah, no, it's just imagine the same gregariousness of humans. I think it's I think there's something to that. I think it's like mass concentration of collective consciousnesses all in a confined space. That's a lot of energy if you think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. So
I wanted to say, by the way, pleasure to meet you, Brandon Spencer, and as yourself as well, Hell on Wheels. I mean, I don't think we've met personally so far, and this is great. I do appreciate you
I
guys
don't.
bringing me on.
Yeah, I don't think
And
so either. And you know what? I was just thinking earlier. I'm just like, you know what? As far as North America goes, we have our bases covered. We have like people across like what, 3 different time zones here?
right,
Yep.
yep.
It's good meeting you too, Robert. Yeah, it's good meeting you too, man.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'm hoping that my streaming software, cuz I had it under the free plan, doesn't cut us off cuz I wouldn't mind moving into another session or whatever. But like I'm hoping it don't cut us off. I don't think it will. But
Or you mean like 2 hours or something?
yeah, I actually did the free trial. I'm going to cancel it after this, but I figured this was going to be one of them streams that was going to go for a while cuz we're all just dealing with the stupidity of the world. And
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a very stupid world indeed. But however, there is an awakening. I do think that people are starting like, huh? Like kind of that,
yeah.
that fluoride stare. But it's like you kind of do this, you snap your fingers,
Yeah.
like, hey, what? But anyway,
Dude,
I think it's starting to happen.
sometimes the people, even some of the people that I've talked to that are like super asleep, I've talked about like this one friend that I have that's probably one of the most asleep people that I know,
Mm.
aside from the ones that literally wear masks still.
In
This
their
one,
cars,
yeah,
with the windows rolled up.
Yeah, I mean,
alone.
you know, you live in Canada, so I imagine that you see quite the smattering of idiots. You see many flavors of stupid up there.
You know what's funny? I was saving this joke for my show, but hang on. Hang on a second. I'm just gonna roll myself a cigarette here
No, that's
because
okay.
I live in the ghetto, Canadian ghetto. No, I'm just joking. I'm very rural. So I have this book here. It's to, totalitarian dictatorship and autocracy, and I'm not reading it because I don't have to. I live in Canada. It's awesome.
I just actually,
That is great.
I just
That's the
got
joke.
Kerry Porch's new book. He was working for CNN. I'm kind of looking forward to. He came out and whistleblowed against them during COVID and everything.
Right?
So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what him and the other person that worked on the book with him wrote.
That's cool.
Man, Bear Pig, you should see the new Gorillas video that just came out. I'm sure you'd love to see all the occult in that.
I'm
I
in.
said, where you see
Yeah.
Man Bear Pig at?
He's
He's in the chat. Okay. What's up, Man Bear Pig? It's been a while.
Yeah,
Oh,
good to see you, brother.
I do want to respond to Frank from earlier. I was kind of sitting on this in my head, and I just wanted to address it. And he said that, Project Bluebeam isn't real, is what I'm saying, I think he said. And I want to address that because Project Bluebeam not being real is just as real the internet or ARPANET wasn't in 1980 or 1970. When it was launched in 1967, it was just a white paper stating what it wanted to accomplish. And that project paper that we found about Operation Bluebeam might not be real only because they haven't achieved the objective yet. So I'm just saying to be wary. I'm not saying it's a thing. I'm just saying you got to be weary of the thing because, the project ARPANET was a white paper in the same system. So, this is
Can
DARPA
you
we're talking about.
explain, Robert, can you explain what the ARPANET was? Because people may not actually understand exactly what it was. Because I do.
Right.
But yeah, can you just explain exactly what it was and what the internet itself was supposed to have been used for?
Well, okay. What I'll do is I'll just kind of touch on the main key points of the white paper. Now, Joseph L. Licklider, he was the creator of ARPANET. He worked for the IPTO, which is the Information Processing Techniques Office. Now, that was renamed from Command and Control Systems at ARPA, by the way, because they dropped the D. They put the D on later on as defense, right? But before it was just ARPA. Anyway, that being said, that was 1967. Now, key points in the white paper dictated that it was for granular control of every individual person on the planet, which, by the way, with these fancy little things, they absolutely do fucking have now. You don't need to put a
Yep.
chip in you. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's interesting when you start looking at like the venture capital companies and like these companies that were funding all of the tech coming out of 1990s into 2000s. Look at the 2003.com collapse. Remember that? The amount of IP that was recollected during all of these business failures, because all the IP, basically they were building all the code, they were building all the different programs, they're building everything, and all that IP went back to the contractors of the venture capital companies that gave them the money in the first place. So as soon as they default, that IP gets owned by the carrier of of the finances. So anyway, it'll end up getting funneled back to like DARPA, Raytheon, and all of its distributing classes that these venture capital and seed corporations belong to. And then, of course, it all gets rallied back up, completing the things that are in the white paper for the ARPANET. And yeah, it was called the ARPANET up until 1987. That's when CERN created the TCP/IP protocol, and that also went in line with the World Wide Web, which runs on port 80 using the TCP/IP protocol. All browsers are based upon that, and there's more to that. I had a guest on a few weeks ago who would talk about how in ancient Aramaic, the W, which is the syllable, is wa, and it's also the sixth syllable of that alphabet. So every
Yeah.
time somebody types in a www, it's a 666, essentially. If you do cryptography, but point is though is that CERN, look, they have Shiva the fucking destroyer like as a statue in front of their facility, and they're atom smashing and everything else. Regardless, they created the TCP/IP version 4 protocol and created the World Wide Web. And that was when the peasants were allowed to graze on the grass. And that's when all these seed and venture capital companies started doing all the tech. That's when it was the Wild West. That's when the internet was great. It had a byproduct. That was the tree hugging hippie internet. And then you had this battle between Comcast and the FCC, I think, in court. And this was over rights on the internet, protecting the free internet. There was no free fucking internet. It was a control structure to begin with. The whole it was net neutrality.
They always sell. That's how they do it. They're salesmen. They're not gonna. You weren't gonna get people 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, to get on the internet by saying, "Hey, would you like to be part of a hive mind?" All right. Yeah. It is gonna cut us off, but I'm gonna try and start another session because I did start that free trial thing.
Right.
Give me a second to deal with it. I'll be
I might-
right.
I might
Yeah.
be heading out here in a second. just
Yeah,
I gotta get
that's
up for
that's
work.
no problem, dude. I'm good. Just
I'm
yeah,
sorry, Robert. I know.
No worries, Kyle. No, it's great having you there. I just wanted to watch you
Yeah.
suffer for a little while. That's all.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
If the resties want to stay for a little bit, I can. I'm gonna get right back on here.
I mean, I can maybe do about 20 minutes, but it's almost 11:30 in my time. so-
Yeah, I'm probably gonna. I'm gonna wrap it up soon. I just didn't want to cut off where we were because we're having a good conversation.
You
Well,
want to
you know what?
do this
How about
tomorrow,
it-
right, Robert?
Well, how about I start one up in a little bit? Give me about a half hour. I'll start back up, and whoever's straggling along, hanging on, they can join in. I'll drop a link.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. I'm all
All right.
for
Well,
it.
all right. Well, we'll break for now, and we'll see you back.
Yep,
Oh, yeah, man.
intermission. Brief intermission. Thank
Peace,
you.
guys.
Peace out. It's fun
Peace out.
talking.
My pleasure.
Fun talking.